What's up, warriors? You got D-Lin here, and I'm coming at you with a different type of video. I know that I'm not out protesting along with everyone else simply because I want to be safe, and I'm still scared AF about coronavirus. I'm not trying to catch it. I'm sorry. But I figured that this would be a way for me to protest what's going on, and also just to speak about my own personal feelings. By now, you have already heard about what happened in Minneapolis concerning the death of George Floyd and the officer who was the cause of his death, and the other 3 police officers who were complicit in his death. And I'm very sure that you've seen the media coverage of the protests happening countrywide, and also the bad part of that, the violent riots and looting that's also taking place. And after hearing about Mr. Floyd's unnecessary murder, because let's be real, that's what it was, and all of the others that's gone on in our current history. Breonna Taylor, 26, murdered in her own home, shot by the police. Ahmaud Arbery, 25, just jogging in Glynn County, Georgia, and shot by 2 white men, father and son. The father being a former police officer and a retired investigator of their district attorney's office. And those 2 cases were very recent. Yeah, after hearing all of that, I do believe that the racism that still exists in America needs to be addressed. So I myself have never experienced violent racism, all-out racism, in-your-face racism. I've never been dragged out of my car. I've never been assaulted in public. I've never been hit. I've never been beaten. I've never been spit on. And to tell you the truth, I really think that's due in part to my belief and faith in God, and also my parents' belief and faith in God and their constant and continuous prayers over me and my brother. Because to be honest, the way things go on, it's almost a wonder that I haven't experienced anything like that. What I have experienced is the silent racism, the quiet racism that is kind of on the side in certain things that have been said to me all throughout growing up, and certain behaviors and gestures and jokes and things like that. That is kind of borderline racism, but it's almost to the point of, you're questioning whether it is or not. But now, seeing how everything is unfolding, I'm realizing that if you feel in your gut something is that way, then 99% of the time your gut is telling you the truth. I was called the N-word pretty recently. It was like 2 years ago. I have never been called the N-word ever by anybody. Not even the playful N-word that ends with the A that unfortunately black people like to use among themselves. And I will say this, I myself do not use that word at all. I think it's offensive, I think it's derogatory, and I think that it brings our people down, and I do not want to be referred to as that. But someone got completely mad because we were driving. I was coming off of an exit onto the main road. Apparently I cut this older white man off, and he yelled out the window at me the N-word, and I was shocked. I was absolutely shocked. That was called for. I get cut off all the time. I get tailgated all of the time. I never get so angry about those things where I feel it's necessary to scream out my window a racial epithet or calling anyone out of their name, especially a stranger. I've never gotten that angry, and I was surprised that it happened to me, and I don't know why I'm surprised. And to be fair, I'm sure that I have been called that but just under breath. And I've dealt with the slurs and the jokes. You know, how come you're not eating watermelon? You don't like to go swimming, wherever that comes from, because I love swimming. Why don't you love rap music? That's something else that I've heard that is just, you see what I mean? Like, it's stuff like that. And usually that type of thing is under the constraint of stereotypical, oh, they don't know any better. If your friend is saying it, you just kind of like, whatever, what are you talking about? But these are all instances, yes, of stereotypes, but it's also underlined racism. I never felt the need to do anything like that to people of other races. I have friends from all different walks of life, all different races, all different ethnicities, and I never felt the need to say something in a derogatory sense that envelopes their whole ethnicity or group. And growing up, I mean, I guess I thought some people are just ignorant. But whenever it's a lot of people doing it, then you have to ask yourself, is this ignorance anymore? It's hard to believe that I had the naivety to think that we've come such a long way as a country from slavery and segregation and just the simple refusal of basic human rights, only now to realize that white supremacy has been here all along, never went anywhere. It was just really well hidden, but every now and then it comes out little by little to the surface. And I'm not sure if it's a good thing or not. I'm gonna say that it's a good thing. The reason that we even hear about the Ahmaud Arbery's, the Breonna Taylors, the George Floyds, because people are out there capturing these crimes and putting it out there online for others to see. How many more of these crimes do we not know about? But how do you change things at this point? Can you? How do you change the feelings of people who've been raised with this one mindset and it's gone through generation to generation to generation? Yeah, the strength of it might filter year by year, decade by decade. It might, sift, and it might not be as toxic or violent as it started out being. But the fact is that it's still there. And I'm definitely not saying that every white person is a white supremacist or is super racist or is gonna take me and drag me and lynch me. I'm not saying that. I have a lot of friends who support me, have been there for me through thick and thin. The only problem that I have, though, is I don't know who isn't a white supremacist. I don't know who does harbor unmitigated anger towards a race of people that makes absolutely no sense. To be completely level with you guys, I'm almost happy when there's someone that has the Confederate flag flying proudly on the back of their 4x4 Ford truck, or on their license plate, or flying freely in their backyard, or tattooed on their arm or their wrist, or worn on a shirt. I'm almost happy to see that. And the only reason I say that is that I know to stay away from them. I know that they have anger and hatred in their heart. Because I'm telling you, why would someone keep hold of and display something that is known as a symbol of hatred and division in a country? Something that shows that they're proud of a time when this country was divided and against each other, the Civil War. And years later, you still have people trying to justify the meaning of that flag, trying to make it a good thing. I don't understand how people do that. But like I said, if you're showing that, if you're brandishing that, thank you. Because I'm going to stay far AF away from you. I understand the protesters. I understand them using their right to have their voices heard. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I don't agree with the people that are using that as a smokescreen to do the bad things, to do the looting, to do the damage to buildings and businesses. We're still in the grips of a pandemic. We're still in the grips of economic hardship. And it's almost like no one has that in the back of their mind, that there's still people unemployed. There are still people trying to figure out how they're going to pay their bills. And you have these people, I don't know if there's like a specific name for them right now, but you have them under the guise of rioting and protesting for George Floyd. You have these people hiding under that to do their dirty work, to do what they want, to get what they want. I don't agree with that at all. I don't agree with violence. Violence never solves anything. To answer violence with violence is ridiculous. And it does nothing. It just makes things harder. It just makes things worse. In a different lifetime, when I was younger and thought, maybe I can give law a try. And I went to school and earned an associate's degree in law enforcement technology. Not quite law enforcement. I didn't go all the way to be a police officer, but I was getting the basic overall training of that job. While I was going through that training, I understood and knew that when you apply to become a police officer, you have to go through your physical training, of course, but you also have to take a psychological exam, and you are subjected to a lie detector test, which I'm sure that's to measure that person's behavioral patterns, and also I would imagine their mental state, because being a police officer is definitely not an easy job. But my question, and this is a very sincere question, is the people that administer these tests, are they actually taking note of the results? Because it's hard for me to imagine that somebody who had 18 complaints on their official record for excessive force, it's hard for me to imagine that he would have even got the job in the first place. And it's far beyond my imagination that he remained on the police force with all of that against him. Unless somehow he faked his way through the psychological test and faked his way through the lie detector, which I have heard people can do. I heard it's possible. I don't know how. That's the only reason, that's the only way I could think that this man, Derek Chauvin, managed to stay at his job. I'm going to be real obvious here and say all police departments need reform, which I guess starts with electing the right local officials who would care to implement such change. And I am guilty of not voting in local elections. I am very guilty of that. To be honest, I've only ever voted for the president, which I'm going to keep doing that. But I just mean that I never paid attention to what was going on directly around me. And now I see why that's important. I feel that I am just as much at fault for the state of our law enforcement. But I will go forward caring about who holds these local offices. I'm going to admit, I'm scared. I'm very scared at the state we are in. As I've mentioned before, I have never been directly affected by racism physically. And again, I thank God for that. I thank God that no one in my family, my immediate family, has been affected either. There have been questionable times where I've been pulled over by the police and it unnerved me because I didn't understand what the reason was or what was going on. And I know that my brother has also gone through some questionable traffic stops. And I'm scared. I'm scared for him as a black man, and I'm scared for myself as a black woman. Black people, for some reason, we've been a target for hate, for violence, for inequality. It's gone on for a long time. It's just that people turned a blind eye to it, me included. But I feel that now is the time that people are getting tired. They're getting tired of hearing somebody's son or somebody's daughter being killed in cold blood. And we need answers. We need answers, and we need action. The profiling needs to stop. The hatred needs to stop. And most definitely, the killing needs to stop. I'm sorry that this was such a serious video. I hope I wasn't too much all over the place. I wrote everything down that I felt that I needed to say and wanted to say. Feel free to leave your comments below, and please take care of yourselves and each other. I'll see you guys in the next video.